Well, hello, everybody. Here we are together again on this beautiful day here in Kansas City. So glad we could be talking about some great things today. And I'm going to be talking about confronting storms in a little different way, but I'm actually taking things from the book, If You Only Knew, and going through the chapters and giving you outlines. If you want to get a study guide from this, there'll be a study guide available um, probably right after this. We're done with this broadcast with FaceTime and on the third chapter, and you can download that for free. Should be on there in a little while. Anyway, I want to talk to you about that. But here in my house today, this morning, we've just gotten into some discussions about all the church scandals going on. Hi, Jeremiah. So good to see you here. Hope you're doing great there in Finland. Looking forward to having your return, working on your return, on our end. Uh, and we've been talking about the scandals that are going on in so many ministries and churches, but um, that's not new to me because I've been around a while to know that there's always been scandals that sort of go in waves. But it's unfortunate too that it happens, and especially if it's really well known, almost celebrity preachers, pastors, then it's really tough on everybody. But the first one when we young when Kathy and I were young, in the spirit and all that, we were amazed that there was Christian TV. And Christian TV was starting, and some of you may have heard of or may not have heard of, depending on how old you are and how long you've been in the walking with the Lord. It's called the PTL Club. Well, we had 700 Club, we had TBN in California, and the PTL Club, which was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's Jim Baker, who's still going. He's down in Branson. He's got a ministry down in Branson and broadcasts from there. And but there was a scandal. Everybody knows about it, and he went to prison for a while, and that shook up a lot of people and tested their faith. They faltered. Well, if this can happen, and this is what it is, then maybe Christianity's not real. Maybe come on. So things happen. Jimmy Swaggart. There was Jim Baker and Jimmy Swaggart. He had a big scandal thing, but he's still broadcasting and doing things. But those all happened in similar times. There was more, but really shook up a lot of people. And so we got to get our faith that understand, not justifying any of it, but people are faulted. You're going to find faulted people, frail, faulted. They make mistakes. They do dumb things, and we're not excusing it. I don't want to excuse my stupidity, so, either. But if I've done dumb things, but certainly not like that. But the scandals they had. But then again, we want to hold on to our faith and not let other people's lives and scandals or popularity or faltering or whatever it is affect us, right? What is that to me? I remember I was looking at the Bible, Jesus is talking to Peter, and he starts talking to, we don't need to go in the detail of it, but he starts talking to him about how his life is going to end, how he's going to die. And so Peter's reaction is really funny because he looks over at John and he says, well, what about him? What about him? Because he's getting like he's going to live old age and he'll be exiled on an island. But and Jesus said, what is that to you? What is that to you? Him? What is that to you? So yeah, there's a lot of news scandals the last month up to recent this week. But what is that to me? I feel bad for everybody. You just feel bad for everybody all the way around because our humanity and weaknesses come out and people get hurt. And so anyway, but what is that to me? I'm going to still do whatever I'm doing and keep doing what I'm doing. I've often thought too, like, just test yourself a little bit. What if somebody gave you, I don't know how much money would affect you. Let's say $10 million. They just all of a sudden gave you $10 million. Would you do anything different than you're doing now spiritually? Or would you just, you know, maybe you'd want to be exiled to an island someplace and just get away from it all. And I thought about that, and I thought that would be great to have because I could do more of what I'm doing now, but it wouldn't change my message. It wouldn't change how I live and how I think. It'd be great to have for the kingdom. But so if anybody wants to do that, feel free. We will accept donations. uh, any day you want to do that. But it only would increase what I do. It would not decrease, where I wouldn't quit or buy a yacht or something and sail away, and forget it all. So anyway, we're going to talk about this as people are coming on and finding their way here at lunchtime on a Wednesday. And of course, there'll be the people, many people watch later too. And so talking about this, about these storms and that from the book, and understanding how we are to confront storms. The chapter 3 in the book, If You Only Knew, we're talking about that. And in it starts about Jeremiah, and God says to him, if you have run with men on foot and they have worn you out, how can you compete with horses? Great scripture. And the idea was, he's struggling along. He's trying to do what God wants him to do, but it's a struggle. He says, and God's telling him, you know what? It hasn't. Hi, Linda. Good to see you here. Uh, and what God is saying to Jeremiah is like, your race hadn't even begun yet. Like, if you're running with people, if you're involved with people stuff, and you're faltering, or you're confused, or you want to give up, or whatever, then how are you ever going to run with horses? And what he's telling Jeremiah is, the horses are coming with heavy hooves, right? It's going to get more intense. And so if you're not making it now, Jeremiah, how are you going to make it then? And so that's kind of where we are today. As you notice, a lot of people, uh, as we were mentioning, scandals and falterings of those in the ministry, but multiply it a billion times, the people that are faltering in their faith, just dealing with people, right? They get offended, they get hurt, they won't forgive, they get critical, they get judgmental, and people that they used to love and admire and all that, and now all of a sudden they don't love and admire, and they change their mind. Now they hate them. Now they're posting stuff about them, and and if we can't, uh, run this race with people, how are we going to do it if the heavy hooves of horses begin to run against us? And that's what God is telling Jeremiah. He's saying, look, the horses are coming. And that's a prophetic word for all of us today, that a lot of people, it just, what do they say? Like water off a duck's back or whatever. They're not hearing it. They're not hearing it. I wrote this little book, If You Only Knew, to do exactly that, to tell people how to prepare for what's coming. Now, we can, in the book, there's an answer, and we want to get today, of what to do, what needs to be done to stop this. But I used Jeremiah because it was going to get more intense, and he's got to run with horses. And of course, who can outrun a horse? Nobody. So this means there is a power, there is a need from heaven to empower Jeremiah in this case, to be able to run with horses. Because in the natural, who can run? Who can race against a horse, right? But spiritually, it applies that we're going to have to run against horses. So the idea is, right now, prophetically, is we are looking at what's going on. And if you're faltering now, and you're barely making it, and you're upset all the time, and you think life is terrible, and you're complaining, and you think this is hard, well, the horses haven't even started to run yet. Will they come? That's what this book is talking about. Uh, Maybe, but it's not absolute. We can change it. We can turn the future to a different kind of future. We can calm the storm. We can survive the storm. We can get it. So, but the lesson to Jeremiah was, prepare anyway. Prepare yourself to run a harder race, in case, in our case, in our lives, I'm saying in case, but prepare yourself, Jeremiah, to run an even more difficult race. Get over what you're worrying about now. Get over it. Let loose. Forgive. Forget. Go make amends with people if you can, and if they'll let you, if you can, and uh, uh, make peace with your family or whatever if you can. Things like that. And don't be mad at everybody around you. Don't criticize everybody. Everybody's in such turmoil. So we just live in such a we live in a day of destructive behavior. If you are on the internet looking around, you're going to see a lot of destructive behavior. It's easy to find road rage and anger and people fighting and posting stuff about people and throwing tantrums. And have you ever seen those videos of Zion you've seen where people are throwing tantrums in Walmart, and things like that, or Target or whatever, because somebody got in line at the checkout, somebody cut them off with their cart, or a car cut them off or whatever, you know. And it's such bad behavior that's upsetting so many people. And it's making the world a little bit dangerous out there, isn't it? Because you don't know who's going to be angry about something, and you just happen to be there, or you unfortunately maybe did cut somebody off by accident, and now they're angry chasing you down the highway. uh, and so we as God's people, we can't be those people, because the race that's coming, the race that we need to run, probably has not started yet. If you check the news today, we'll see. But I was sharing around our house today that Russia and North Korea have made a pact. Was it Russia? It was Russia, wasn't it? It wasn't China. I think it was Russia. Made a pact that uh, they're going to work together, that if either one of them gets attacked by anybody else, they're going to join forces together. That's huge. That's huge. North Korea is not near as advanced and not near as powerful, but maybe a little more angry than Putin is in Russia. And the problem is, here, that says that they think, I mean, that definitely would be horses running heavy hoofs if those two uh, turned against us or any other country. Hi, Nathan. Uh, then that would really be something. I mean, that'd be a whole nother race that we would have to run with horses. And if we're not making it with people, we're upset at people all the time. We're afraid. We're anxious. We're depressed all the time, and just all the things that people go through. Now, what would we do then if two nations got together and attacked us in this thing, or whatever could happen? And so we need to be prepared for anything, and we need to get over the small stuff and prepare ourselves with the big stuff. Last night I was speaking to a group, and I mentioned that I think it's really possible that uh, God said to the children of Israel, "You're about to enter a land, and you're going to face spirits. You're going to face things that you've never faced before." And that's kind of where we are now, unless something changes. We're going in that direction, that we are going to face things. We're going to face spirits. There's a possibility that spirits that we've never had to deal with before, at least in this country, there could be in other parts of the world. You go to different parts of the world, and you can tell that and it's biblical, that there are spirits over, evil spirits and demonic things over certain regions. Daniel, when it says in the book of Daniel, he prayed, and it took 3 weeks for the angel to get there and help him, because he had to fight spirits over that region to get down to helping Daniel and talking to Daniel. And so we could have spirits that we're not used to, because with all the changes in immigration and cultures that are flooding into our country, where they're bringing their familiar spirits with them. And so we want to be prepared for anything. That's the main thing I'm saying. So so God said to Jeremiah, if you're running a race with men on foot, if you're running a foot race with people, and you're not making, and you're worn out, how are you going to run with horses? No way. No way. So that's my advice. That's my advice. I was going to say prophetic advice, but that doesn't have to be prophetic. It's just good advice. And so I remember telling the story that I think my phone's going off. Yeah. Um, I remember telling the story when I was in the Philippines. It may be in this book. If you read it, you might hear it again here. But I was in the Philippines, and I they were showing me around the city after I'd ministered a couple of weeks, and it was almost time to leave the country. And I was in a car with some people, and they stopped at the gas station, got gas, and there was a couple that were there at the kind of like a convenience store, sort of, and they had a shopping cart, and all of the stuff they owned was in the shopping cart, and they were right there, and so I said something to them, and hi, and they wanted to know where I was from and things like that, and then they pointed across the highway, and over in the highway was a huge dump, just a dump. I mean, and it wasn't like covered up like we do. It was, all the trash was everywhere, blowing in the wind. And they pointed over there, and I think they had 2 or 3 kids. And they said, "Those are my kids over there." And the kids are playing in the dump. And if I remember right, they were playing in the dump in their underwear. Fortunately, they were only 3 and 4 or 5 years old type kids, but they had little underwear on and they're playing in the dump, and they're running and playing and throwing stuff and rolling around in the dump. And so, you feel like, whoa, and I noticed it bothered me, not that they were playing in the dump. What really bothered me is they looked so happy playing in the dump. And the parents who had very little and so proud of their kids. The parents were happy. They're smiling. And there's these kids playing in the dump, laughing and having a good time, and being able to play outside, which our kids hardly can do today. So when I came back, I come back and I was telling the story of being in the Philippines, and hi, Beth. And I was telling the story of being in the Philippines, and I told that story at the very end. I told about ministry, and stuff, ministering about that. And shortly after that, some women got together and they decided, well, we should do something about it. We'll contact the pastor that you were with, who knows who that area, and let's put something together, some packages, and we'll put together, coloring books and shoes and books and pencils and um, maybe maybe a little portable video games. They were talking, just stuff, care packages and all kinds of great stuff that they were going to give to these kids. And it was a great thing. But then I stopped them. I said, why do you want to do this? Uh, why are you doing this? And this is what I said to him. I said, do you want to make them as unhappy as we are? Do you want to make them as unhappy as our kids are, as dissatisfied by giving them all this stuff? They don't need it. They don't need it. There's a lesson there. The simplicity of life that I saw, and how we feel sorry, like this is terrible. And we would really be upset if we had to live in that environment. And here we have all these great things around us and so blessed, and so life is so easy compared to other parts of the world. And we're upset, we're angry, we're dissatisfied, we're posting angry things about people, and just in turmoil, just a turmoil inside of people, and a bunch of destructive and bad behavior in our country. So, okay, so that's the way it is in other areas, but what's that to me? I'm not gonna fall for that. I'm not gonna be that kind of person. I don't have to join in. I don't have to be angry. I don't have to be sucked into this culture thing that's happening right now. And so I don't want to be that way, because right now, if we're, like I said, like God said to Jeremiah, if you're around people and you're worn out in this environment of all that we have and the blessings we have, and look, everybody that's right now watching and going to watch later this, that's going to be on the internet and on their phones and on their laptops, and then they're going to be on Netflix, watch a movie, and then they go out to eat. Even with this, it's funny, Zion. It's really funny in this economy. We hear how tough things are, and people in groceries and all that. And but go try to get in a restaurant here in our town at 5 o'clock, or on Sunday it's really hard. But even at 5 o'clock here, you go down the street where there's all kinds, there's so many restaurants, and many you can't even get into. If they're fast food, okay, but go in and sit down, no reservation or whatever. They're all packed. So and yet we're so angry, we're so upset. So the key here that God was trying to say to Jeremiah, look at yourself. Are you struggling now when you've got all this? What would you do if a herd of horses comes stomping your way? If you can't run on a foot race with men, how are you going to compete with horses? And he's prophetically letting Jeremiah know it's going to get tougher. It's going to get worse. Well, in the book, If You Only Knew, I'm suggesting that it's possible that could happen, but it is also preventable. So in the chapters, we start talking about the coming storm and confronting storms. We want to realize that what the little booklet. And by the way, there'll be a new book out that Pastor JD and I have written, and it should be in bookstores February. They told me you may be hearing a little bit about it before then. They'll be advertising it, but and it's going to be kind of a big deal, because they're really liking the book and they're going to push it. I think the publishers are, and so there's another a real book. This is just a booklet, but it's a call in it to understand that we can turn this. We don't have to be stomped by the horses. We can stop the herd before they get here. But we're going to have some spiritual renewal. You that came in a few minutes later, and those that'll listen to this later, when I opened, I talked about our house here. There's people at our house today, and we kind of been talking about church scandals that are in the news and have been for recent, and well, this whole year basically, but it happens, and not letting ourselves be swayed by that, and by what's happening to other people, and sticking to the plan, sticking to our walk. And that only shows us, though, it's a sign. We need spiritual revival. We need renewal. We need to be strong in the Lord, because we haven't even seen the horses, the spiritual side, like huge Clydesdale, you know, the okay, all right, they're Bush beer horses, but okay, they're Clydesdales. Everybody, Clydesdales don't necessarily have anything to do with beer, but Bush beer took them and make them for their ads. Okay, but they're huge horses. Their hooves are this big, and imagine those, you having to run with them or against them, a race with them or whatever. Huge hooves pounding the ground, and so we want to prepare for that, or we want to not have it happen at all, right? We want to be prepared. So we need spiritual revival. And sometimes people, they look at it like, well, it's a choice, and maybe I don't want to get that involved. Maybe what if I have to go to church more than I am? What if I have to give more money to my church to able to support a spiritual move of God? I kind of like the way we do now. Kathy and I last night, because we were out and we were speaking, and we drove by a church that I had never seen before, but I recognized the name. I said, "Look, let's go drive by. Let's drive closer." A magnificent building, uh, and I thought of that too in the Bible when Jesus is hanging out with the disciples, and they do the same thing. Jesus, look at these magnificent buildings, and he said, "Listen, don't put your faith in that. Don't think things are going to change." Isn't that what he said? He said, "Yeah, these are going to come tumbling down." But anyway, I said, "Look at this magnificent building. It's great." And I said, I don't think I'd like to have, if they probably borrowed money. They probably owe a ton of money, and I wouldn't want that. But it was great. And so driving away from there, heading home, I kind of knew about the church, but we looked stuff up, and it's a spirit filled, charismatic, worshiping, raise your hands church. But we looked at their services, and they have one at 9, which is common. I'm not being critical, because um, it's what everybody's about chosen to do it. I'm the weird one. We're the weird ones, you that are with me and us going to church. But they start at 9 and they're out at 10, or 10:15, and then they start another one at 10:45, quarter to 11, and then they're out at noon. So hour or so to time to get in, hour service, out again, and that's what they do. And so if you talk about other things like different, like people say, well, I kind of like just going to church for an hour. That's what I grew up on. I grew up, I went to Methodist church. Now I went to the Nazarene church when I was really young, up to the second grade. And it's weird. I really liked that church. I liked it a lot. They were loving. They were caring. Every service, they didn't believe in speaking in tongues. They don't believe in I don't know if they believe in healing either, but I can't remember. But they believe in holiness. Every single service, people came down to the altar and knelt down and mostly cried, but so maybe it was a little not joyful enough for what really it should have been. But they were good people, and it had an impact on me. But then we moved to Missouri, and there was a church close by, Methodist church, and it was a real standard Methodist church, and the service was an hour long. Oh my. I'm telling you, sitting there with my brother during that service, like an hour lasted like forever, you know? And so maybe I'm getting like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to live that way. I want to have a service where God can move and kids can, do the thing we have, Revive Kids now. They go and have another service during it, which is okay. But for years and years and years, we all just stayed together, especially when we were out in the country. We didn't have another room to go to at that time. And I like having families together, and we laugh and we preach and we sing and we worship and we sit by each other, and we sit by mom and dad, or single moms, single dads, whatever, sit with our kids. And I like that. And I like just going to church and not having to constantly watch the clock and say, we got to get them in, get them out, or they might not come back. Well, if they won't come back because we have to do their time schedule, and what kind of people are we catering to, So that's me. I'm the weirdo, right? I'm the strange one, you know. I'm the creep among us that I don't fit in because I don't want to live that way. And I hope I'm right. but I also understand that people don't not everybody's gonna think like me, and that's okay. And not every pastor's gonna do it my way, and that's okay. This is a great I think it's a pretty good church. I think they're pretty good people. It's probably not as I think I would like to go a little more intense in my worship and my preaching and our preaching, but that's okay. So I'm not being critical at all. I'm just saying that's what's going on, and I feel like that. Um, if that's where we are, we want to minimize God. I mentioned that the downsizing of God is happening everywhere, and we want to minimize God for our own reasons, so that we can have more free time and more us time, more me time. Um, I don't want to do that, because if this is a prophetic word for us that Jeremiah got, that he's struggling right now with people, then what if the big horses, the spiritual horses, you know, the big guns of the spirit, and then also nations rising up against nations and war and big stuff. What if we have to pray for our lives? What if we have to pray for our lives? Are we prepared for that level of spirit, that we would get this, that we would be able to pray to save our lives, to save our nation, to save our government against nations that want to, blow us to bits? Do we have the spiritual power to turn back those spirits and turn back evil? If a war would break out, if something else, if even a cyber war or something like that, would break out, do we have the power? Do we have the faith? Do we have the commitment to push back spirits? I don't think so if we don't have the faith to say, I want this. If we have to say, I want this service to get over quick because I want to go eat and play and have fun. So, can we get this over as fast as possible? So, in other words, we don't. We're going to church. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad they're going, but it feels like we're not wearing the full armor of God. We don't want to wear it. It's too heavy. It's too bulky. And faith and prayer and the sword of the spirit, and turning back the fiery darts with the shield, all that we need to do. It's like, I don't know, we don't want to do that. Yeah, but we need to practice. We need the practice. We need to live the lifestyle now to prepare ourselves, and that's kind of what Jeremiah is getting from God, and he does pretty well. So the chapter in the book is Running with Horses. I got a study guide. I'm holding it in my hand. In fact, I got several pages. The one you'll get is a short one. You can download it for free. It's probably not on there yet because I'm got it in my hand. But when we finish here, we'll see if we can get that on there and get you a study guide. So anyway, it's a strange world we live in. We've got scandals in the churches. We've got inflation. We've got immigration, border problems, crime, all those things. And if we're faltering now, how are we going to make it? But it's all preventable. We can turn this back. We can turn this around if people will get desperate enough and want to realize the answer. The answer is right in front of us, especially even for those churches. They only go for an hour, maybe. Okay, I'm not being critical, believe me. That's their business. I did it when I was a kid. I went for an hour, uh, and my parents did too, and that's all they knew. Uh, but are we prepared? And I want us to be prepared. The answer, whether you go to church for an hour or whenever you go, the answer is right in front of us, right there. You're in church. And the answer, the Spirit of the Lord, is right here. The kingdom of God is here. And we can turn back the storms, and we can confront the storms now, early, and turn them back in the name of Jesus. So glad we could be together today. I hope that was helpful. And many people get it. You can get the book if you only knew. Download it for free. You can buy it too if you want one, and you can get that study guide. Till next time. Bye.